Hello, everyone. Welcome to IT Tech Talk. I'm your host, Joel Ward, and tuning with me is Maddie Hunt, tuning all the way in from Israel.
Hello.
How are you, Maddie?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. I know it's nighttime over there, so over here it is actually, well, depending on what time zone you're listening to the show, it is 1:51 p.m. and it is raining. So it's not a very good day. But no, I'm glad we finally got to connect and get back on the show. For those who don't know, Maddie actually was on the show prior to that. I think it was maybe before or after we wrote the book. I can't remember. But Maddie also wrote a book with me called A Successful Future Isn't Just Written. So
yeah, I think that was after. I think it was after.
I can't remember. I have to go back to the episode logs, but I'm pretty sure it was after because we did talk about the book. But yeah, so I don't know if I told you, but we have sold 300 copies of that said book.
Really?
And
wow.
I didn't get your response back, so we ended up just doing it. But all that money has been donated to helping sex trafficking victims.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so all the money for those who do purchase a book, who listen to the show, your money has gone to help sex trafficking victims through the H21 campaign. So yeah, so we donate the money. I have not used the money for anything other than helping other people because it wasn't about the money. It was about giving information to those who want to learn about success and what success means to us. And Maddie, I think your story was very positive in the fact that you talked about success and all the struggles in your life and what led you to get to where you're at in life. And now you're in Israel doing what exactly again, for those who don't remember?
All right. So I'm currently living in Jerusalem, Israel. I'm volunteering with an organization called Bridges for Peace, and it's Christians helping Jews in Israel and around the world. I'm here doing publications. So I help design things for like the monthly teaching letter that goes out. I take photos for sometimes the news, sometimes the website. So yeah, my photography is being implemented and a lot of the designs, which is fun.
Yeah, and Maddie, you have a phenomenal eye for like just detail because all your photography, like every time I look at it, like, and just the things you take, the pictures you've taken in Israel, it's just so detailed and like you can definitely tell there's a passion behind your work. And like you're not just like a photographer who takes good pictures. You're someone who really passionately cares about what you're taking pictures of. You're not just taking pictures because like everything you've taken a picture of and shared online or shared with your Facebook or Twitter, has been like passionately shared through something you care about, which I think is really cool what you're doing, which is you're over there helping, even during, I know I've texted you several times just worried about you because like there's been several times where I've seen there's been terrorist attacks within Israel and Jerusalem itself. And I know you posted that there is a movement of I guess Israeli forces are like going through the capital, as it were. Could you give a little detail on what's going on?
So right now is the month of Ramadan. So for the Muslim culture, this is their holy month. During this time, there's usually an uptick of terror attacks, as we've all been seeing on the news. And right now, there are the Israeli Defense Forces have deployed their people to work with Israeli security forces. So there's a lot of security police and IDF that are just swamped everywhere throughout the cities.
And I guess that's for protection of Israeli citizens, then I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah, it is.
What has been the most impactful part of your trip since you've been out there? You said 9 months you've been there. What is the most impactful thing you've done? I mean, I've seen your posts and everything I think is pretty impactful what you're doing, but what has been what has stood out the most about your trip so far?
What has stood out the most? Okay, there's so many different angles that I could talk about, because like I'm here on a discipleship program as well as volunteering. So like the discipleship program aspect has been incredible. Volunteering with this organization has been so special. Overall most impactful has really taught me how how easy it is for news sources to skew things, because like living in Israel, it's nothing like I thought it was. It's not, I mean, it's not, you know, a third world country. Like there's really nice malls, there's easy transit, there's it's a really high functioning society. And it's not really something that I've ever, you know, looked at any news story about Israel and thought, "Oh, look at that." Because like the old city itself, I mean, like that's really old. But there's a lot of people who have modern technology in those really old places. So it's seeing that contrast of the how ancient buildings are working with all the modern technology, and just how Israel is functioning as a state and country.
That's awesome. So real quick for my listeners, where are you located in the respects to the old city? Like you, because you just told me you were heading back from the old city. Where are you in respects to everything? Like you said, you're near, like there's malls and stuff. Where are you in this?
Mhm.
Where are you in Israel and stuff? You don't have to give an exact location, but what city are you in currently?
Okay, so I am living in Jerusalem in a neighborhood called Talpiot, and I'm living on the east side of that neighborhood. Um, how far is the city away? The city isn't that far away. Depending on my route to work, I either walk or take the bus, because I work 20 minutes away from here. If you're walking, like I can look at this one spot. It's called the Haas Promenade. So it's just this overlook of the old city and the Mount of Olives. Um, it's like an hour and 15 minutes if you walk from from where I live.
Yeah, and you know, you were talking about how people can just assume it's a third world country. And one of the pictures you took, I remember looking at, I was like, there's greenery. Like I would think, like for me, not knowing Israel that well, like I was like, it's all desert. Like that's all I thought it was. It's like nothing but desert. And there's greenery and stuff. And it was shocking to see that picture. I was like, there is actual like mountains and green ranges. And I'm sure there's like vineyards and stuff out there as well. But people assume it's a third world country out there.
So there are parts of Israel that are very much, you know, brown desert and dust. One of the places that we got to go as zealous as the discipleship program is, we got to go to Timna National Park, and that's up towards or down towards Eilat. That was all desert. Like there wasn't green anywhere there. Like that was just sand and rocks and craggy peaks. Like it was, that was all it was. We just finished the winter season here in Israel. Um, and Israel does not look like anything like what you imagine when you do think of Israel, because the hills are bright green and there's grass, which has been amazing to see, and flowers everywhere.
So you're originally from close to Oregon, right?
Yeah, so I'm Washington State, and I live on the Olympic Peninsula. So I live like on the far side of the state.
So you're used to this is I know where you're from. I just listeners don't, not all of them know where you're from if they haven't listened to the
Mm,
show because I have new listeners. But you're used to green mountains and spruce trees and all that stuff. And I'm sure
yes,
this
I
has been
am.
like a whole different like scenery, like you know, desert and some greenery, like whereas you came from where it's mountains and snow and lakes and
Hmm.
stuff. And it's different. And I've been to Spanish speaking countries. I've never been over into Europe, the European side, always to Mexico or like Belize or Costa Rica, but I've never been outside of that comfort zone. Whereas like
Hmm.
there's so much like of a different culture shock as like, yeah, that's like that's different, but it's like it's near the US. Whereas you're like over the pond, as they would say, and you're
Oh
like
yes.
in a totally different atmosphere, totally different thing, totally different area. um one of the things I want to ask you is what are you looking for? Like you said, I think we've talked about it, but you said, what are your plans going forward? Like you're planning on coming back, or you plan on staying home for a little bit? What are your plans coming up once your internship or whatever is over?
So I'm in a season of waiting with that, because week 3 of me being here, I was on the bus on my way to work, or on my way home from work. I think I was on my way home from work. And I looked out over the old city. You know, it was sundown. The light is reflecting off of the the Dome of the Rock, and I very clearly heard, "You're staying another year." Like I very clearly felt that and heard that, and it's not what I wanted. I left home telling everybody, "Oh, don't worry, I'll be back in a year. I'm not gonna want to stay in the desert in like summer for that long because like I love fall, I love winter, and here it is 9 months out of the year hot." Um, so God had different plans for me, has different plans for me. Right now, I'm waiting to find out if they have a position for me to stay here in Israel and continue working with this organization. But like there's because the borders opened up, we have volunteers that are coming in now. So yeah, I'm just waiting to find out if there is a spot for me. But you know, I feel like if God told me that, then I shouldn't have to stress about it, you know?
Yeah, I love that you're like you had that voice because there's so many times in our lives where we're like we just want an answer, and it was like kind of like you were looking out, just not even seeking the answer, and the answer came to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really hoping you get your answer because that would be great if you could stay. I know how passionate, like just seeing your posts and just seeing what you're doing over there, the interactions you have with the Israelis, like it's just you look like you're having like a blast, but also you're doing work that you know is going to benefit someone in the long run. Um, so overall, you would say your trip is going really well.
Mm-hmm.
What are your plans? Like when, if you don't, what are you going to do when you get back? If let's say you stay in there a year, what are you going to do when you get back? Like, do you have plans on like, what are you going to do when you fit back into the American lifestyle? Because right now you're living in an Israeli lifestyle. You're like living like you look pretty
Yeah.
chillax. It looks fun as all get out. I'm kind of jealous actually because a lot of stuff is like stuff I wish I could do. Because honestly, one of the major travel things for me, I have kids. You know, it's hard to travel with kids, but like I would love to go to Israel, like to see
Mm-hmm.
Jerusalem and just everything about like the holy city and stuff. Like it would be so amazing. So I'm kind of jealous that you're there. Actually, when you told me you were going there, I was kind of like, man, that's one of my really major travel points. Um, so what are your plans if you stay another year? What are you going to do when you get back? What are your plans to reallocate yourself in the culture, into this American lifestyle? Because right now you're a totally different lifestyle, totally different thing. You're doing a lot of work that you want to do. Are you going to be able to like get a job in journalism or stuff back in the States?
I would really love to. I've kind of been looking in and exploring options. The ultimate goal is to work for a travel magazine someday, or just a Christian magazine. Like just because I have been to Israel and I have that experience now. Um, I really don't know what lies ahead for me. I've been kind of I've been asking about that my ooh, words. I've been asking myself that question a lot. Um, I feel like it's time for me to get out of Washington, at least for another couple of years. So I'm thinking maybe Idaho, maybe Montana. Just I love the small town lifestyle, but I also know that I'm now too big for my small town, if that makes sense. So like I would like to go home for at least 6 months to spend that time with my family and try to figure out what I'm doing. Really hoping and praying that God will continue to let me use my photography and open doors with that. And yeah, so I don't really know. None of this was my plan. It just kind of proves the ultimate authority of our Creator.
Definitely. So how has your family been supportive wise while you've been over there? Like you've been gone 9 months. How have they been handling you? I know you have siblings. How are they all handling you being gone for this long?
you know, it's really interesting because we all have completely different lives right now. I'm really wondering about how, like, I'm hoping to go home at the end of my discipleship program for like at least a month to like spend time with them and yeah, just reconnect because like I have completely different experiences now. I have been living an Israeli lifestyle, and people here who have come from the US and have gone back, or like the hardest culture shock they had was coming back to the States. So like I've been really, really antsy about that. But yeah, so my family's been super supportive of me being here. I'm really thankful that they've all been so supportive and so excited and happy for me. Going home is going to be interesting because like I'm going to be able to tell all the stories, but also have to relearn who they are as people, which, you know, I'm excited to do. It's just been strange to not be in that loop because we're all really close.
Yeah, so I like that because you were touching on like there is, I definitely can see that as a culture difference. Like there's a shock coming back to like you leave, you go there, you live for so long, like you've been there 9 months. When you come back, there's gonna be a total adjustment to like not just the culture, but like different things like your siblings are like relearning who people are because you've been gone so
Mm-hmm.
long. I mean, it's not like it's great that we can connect. Like you and me are on a video call right now. You're in Israel, I'm
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania. Like that's so bizarre. Like I was talking to my buddy today and I was telling him, I was like, it's so weird. I get to connect to someone in Israel today and I'm in the US, and it's so fascinating how we can like touch base with people overseas and all that stuff through video chat.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the same as learning who they are in person. So like you coming back, seeing all these people in person again, you know, I'm sure it's going to be a stressful situation because you're going to be like walking to the airport waiting to meet those people, and they're going to be like totally different people because for 9 months they've been doing
Mm.
their own thing. So I totally get that. I think my question is like, are you ready to come back? Like, or are you like, look, this is my question. You've been there so long, you love it there. Would it be something where you would just say, I'm deciding to move out of America totally? Like, is it something you would move to Israel? Like, I mean, I think if I were given the chance to move out of my hometown and move somewhere, I would move to like Italy or like England or somewhere cool, like just to get out for a little while. But then like, would I want to leave? I don't know. Is it something that you've thought about moving there?
It is something that I have thought about. If that's what God wants me to do, there's a lot of work that he has to do on me. Because I'm not gonna lie, I do love it here. The people here are beautiful, but there's also days where the people here are really hard because Israelis have grown up in an environment where they have to be tough and they have to be fast. And like as an American, I could never live that lifestyle. And like for me, for what is manners to me, is like they don't have that same balance. Um, so this has been one of the most difficult and rewarding like places that I've gotten to live, because like my hometown, I knew a lot of people and had my routine down, and here in not one day is exactly like the last. No experience with people has ever been the same. Sometimes people are really nice, sometimes there's not. Israelis have made me cry. And then other times like it's just been an honor and a pleasure. Not living in Washington has been hard because like I lived out of out of um out of town, and I had trees and I had the mountains and I had the rivers and all of that. Living in Jerusalem, um there's so much noise all the time. Like I'm living in an apartment, so my entire neighborhood is in a valley. We pick up all the sounds if our windows are open. We hear all the cars driving by. And that was the hardest thing for me to like learn how to adapt to, was all of the noise pollution here. Um, so there have been times where it's like I just want to go home. Like I I love it here. Like it is a blessed land. Um, but yeah, there are some days where it's really hard to be here.
So
But like
that's
I do have it on my heart to do continue to do mission work, and I would love to live in another country.
so that kind of like was kind of answering my next question, which was how difficult is an American is it to be there? You kind of answered it. Could you give a little more brief overview? Because you said they make you cry sometimes it makes you happy. How hard is it as an American being in Israel in a very, you know, fast paced, as you said, fast paced and like different lifestyle for them?
Let's see. Um, there's only been a couple times where it really have made me cry. Like one time there was a bus driver who was just kind of rude to me, and I was really overwhelmed already. Shopping here, I'm not gonna lie, shopping here is extremely difficult because customer service here is just not American standard. Um, but you kind of learn how to adjust with that. Um, a lot of people aren't happy if you don't speak any Hebrew. So like there's one situation that I had where I kept getting pushed to the back of the line because I didn't know Hebrew and none of the cashiers knew Hebrew. So they just put me off until they absolutely had no choice but to deal with me. And like part of that was like I feel really bad that I haven't picked up enough Hebrew to communicate. Um, but you do adjust. Like it is easier. There's only been a handful of times where it's been really difficult. Um, like public transportation, and even today, like I was in the old city today, and because Israel's borders are open, there's a lot of tourists, and nobody has a sense of a personal bubble. So you're getting pushed and shoved, and you know people are trying to call you into their shops to check out whatever they've got, and it's just a matter of learning what to tune out and how to throw elbows.
So it's very much a different culture, as in like for like if it's kind of, I view it like this. When like a Spanish speaking person or a Chinese speaking person or Japanese or whatever comes over here and they don't speak English to America, and like we're trying to help, well, like we push them to the back of the line. We don't know the language, so there's a barrier. Now there's been a lot of new tools and stuff like I can't think of what it is. Google Translate. I think it's Google Translate has like a thing where you can speak into it and it speaks
Hmm.
back in the language, but that always doesn't work. It can sometimes leave
No.
you in an actually worse position. So like, not knowing the language and having that barrier is, I guarantee, is difficult, because I've been in like Spanish speaking countries where I didn't know I had Spanish in school, but like I didn't really learn it because I was like, oh, just gonna finish this class. So then when I got to that situation, I'm like, well, I wish I had paid more attention, because there was times where it's like, I was in a part where they were like trying to talk to me and I had to have the translator. Thankfully, thank to God, we had a
Mhm.
translator with us, who would speak the language. But if we didn't have that translator, I would be so lost. Like I would love to go to another country like China. Like there's so many places in China and Japan that are so cool to see, or like in Israel or like Germany. But like if you don't know the language, you're pretty much lost. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
struggle. Like, do I really want to put myself in that situation where I'm stuck somewhere not knowing the language? But for you, you have like I'm sure a good people around you who are able to help you and coach you if you need it.
Yeah. No, I'm really blessed. There's a couple of Hebrew speakers that if I really, really need help, I can rely on them, and it's wonderful. And it's funny that you like mentioned Japan, because I have a Japanese roommate and I love her, and I'm actually learning Japanese right now. I'm in Israel, not learning Hebrew, I'm learning Japanese. Because like these are the places that I want to go, and like I know enough German that I could figure out how to navigate just because I know enough. Um, and like I've picked up on enough Hebrew now that I can usually recognize where I am, and like very, very little sometimes, like I know how to ask for a check or a receipt or a bag, and just really, really, really basic stuff. uh so yeah, what you put into it, you get more out of it. And unfortunately, we've just been so busy, and because I work with primarily English speakers, like I don't have to exercise the Hebrew very much.
That's awesome. I think, it's kind of funny that you're learning Japanese in in Israel when you should be learning Hebrew, because that's the main language there.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, there is I was watching, I think I was reading one of your posts. I was thinking about, I was like, I would love to go to Israel, but you know what keeps me from going to these other countries is definitely language barrier. Like I literally look
Hmm.
at it, I'm like, do I really want to get stuck in a situation where I don't know language, where I'm trying to get somewhere or go to do something or go to like a city or wherever, Munich or like wherever I'm at, like I don't know how to get
Hmm.
there. But my dad has been everywhere and anywhere across the globe, and he doesn't know the language anywhere, but he does well and he makes it through. I'm just like, what's your secret? And he's just like, you just got to know the right people. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I don't know anybody over there. Like, I don't know what to ask or who, like, I feel like the dumb American tourist. And like, it's, but for you, you're confident because you're like a nomad. You like to travel, you like to do stuff. So I feel like you're more comfortable in those situations than me. So I feel like even though you're getting hassled or like they push you to the back line, you're like thinking about like, I'm here to serve a purpose. And yes,
Hmm.
there might be a language barrier, but I'm here to do something. And yeah, I'm learning, but like I'm gonna do my best to not get frustrated in that situation.
Hmm. No, exactly, exactly. Because like I am here to serve these people, and like there's a shocking amount of people in Israel, or shocking to me, who do know at least a little bit of English. And like earlier today, I was getting a coffee, and the girl was ringing up my order. She didn't speak very much English, and then it was exciting to help her, because like it was like 19 shekels for whatever I had ordered, and she's like, it's 19, right? 19. And she had me go and look at her computer. I was like, yeah, that's right. And she was so excited. So it's like having grace for those people, um for not having, because like that's something that I really worry about is being, I don't want to be a dumb American tourist. I don't want to be a rude American tourist. So like I apologize for not knowing Hebrew, and give people grace when they don't have English skills, like because I was raised in the United States all my life. Um and even having grace for the people that snap at me at the grocery store for not having the the Hebrew skills. Um that's been something that I've been really challenged with. And yeah, I'm just trying to bless them in spite of that language barrier.
That's awesome. So it looks we're actually on our time, but I am so glad we finally got to connect again and I got to get to talk to you. Maddie, for those who I don't know, I think you're getting launching a shop or like a small shop for people to buy your photos from Israel. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm very slowly but surely gathering my absolute favorite photos from
Mhm.
my absolute favorite locations that I've been, and I'm gonna be having a temporary pop-up shop.
Do you have the link for that yet?
I don't have that
Okay.
yet.
Well, for once you get that link, could you share that with me and I will share it to the show link. But if you have I do have a link to your current shop for your current Photoshop. I will share that in the show notes again. But Maddie, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a blessing. And for those who want to pick up a copy, the book of Successful Future isn't just a Successful Future isn't just written. It's on Amazon and it's available. This podcast is also available anywhere you listen to podcasts. So if you want to listen to anywhere else, it is also available, not just on Spotify. Someone asked me that, is like, it's just available on Spotify. No, it's available also on Apple, Google, and a few other places that are only for Android. But yes, you can listen to this other places. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to hearing the next one and stay tuned for more upcoming guests.